Look how this quilt is framed. We're going to remake this quilt with such a fun twist. I can hardly wait to show you. So I picked this black to be the background big piece fabrics that you saw that were novelty fabrics in the last quilt. And I'll show you both quilts at the end so that you can compare and see. But I did this because of you guys. I will show you. It's really, really fun what we're going to do. So I chose the same frame colors as on the other quilt so that we can see what just a little change will do when we compare them at the end. I'm cutting them to size so that I can put these frames around the black background. Notice as I lay these out what I'm doing with my hands. I'm holding the end together and then I'm pulling it so that I can waste less fabric. It's only a titch less, but I don't want to waste any of this beautiful, amazing fabric. So I just line those ends up, get it ready, and cut them out. And now I'm ready to just sew the border around every single black piece. This is a fairly simple, straightforward quilt. So you want to go straight. I'm showing you at that end. You don't want to go kittywampus. Make sure all your seams are straight starting at the beginning and ending at the end. And you can see that I'm just seeing which color is on which one. And once you get one piece on, you just keep going. And you do this whether they're separate centers or all black centers like this version that we're making now. Do you stay press your seams before you open them? I always do. And if you haven't tried doing this where you press over the top before you open the piece up, try it. It just feels like it keeps it straight. It lays flatter, it works better. My sister taught me to do that when I was young, and I've done it without, but it just feels and looks better to me when you stay press. So then you get ready and you sew the other two on, and it's just a framing. So simple to do this pattern. After it gets all the way framed for all four pieces, then we're ready to move on to the tricky, it's not that tricky, but a little tricky part. I gather my little boxes of crumbs in each color, so blue and orange and teal and red, because we're going to need those in a minute after we finish putting the quilt top together. So the tricky part is this middle four patch. It has to have all the colors in the right place. I put the two blues together. It's really a teal and a blue, and the reds and the orange, and I didn't like it, so I've moved it back. When you do warm colors across from each other diagonally and cool colors, it balances in your brain and looks better. This is the diagram from our pattern. We're selling it for a very low price on our website, but if you don't want to buy it, you can draw it up yourself. And I always like to have it there so that I can color it in the appropriate place where I decide to put them, so that for the rest of the time that I'm piecing this, I'm not confused. I can refer to the diagram and look where every color goes. I'm cutting out the four patch pieces. And then, because my sashing is directional, I'm deciding which direction they go, first on the pattern, and now I'm cutting it. And this has four patch pieces, so they will be directional, plus it has the bigger sashing pieces. Because this fabric is directional, and because I want it to go in the direction that I drew on my diagram, then I take time to make sure I'm cutting the pieces in the sizes that they need to be to go where they need to go in the proper direction. So just slow down and check your diagram as you cut. Now I'm going to lay out the cornerstone pieces. They're four patches, but they're also going to be cornerstones. So the center is in the center, and then those cornerstones have to go around the bigger pieces. Plus these directional pieces have to go the way I wanted them in the diagram. So I lay them out, I put them on my ruler so I can transport them over to my sewing machine, and then I very carefully sew these four patches into their proper four patches. It's important to use your proper 1/4 inch seam so that everything becomes the right size as you sew it together. They're not really four patches because I cheated. You can cheat too, it's in the pattern, but you cut the one size of that four patch as one piece, and that way you don't have to sew those two pieces together and they look like four patches, and the direction of the directional fabric is going the way I want it to. And you can see that on the corners I have it turned so it goes down and up. You don't have to do yours that way. Everyone gets to choose which direction feels good to their brain. This is what felt good to mine. As I get this finished up, then I take it and I press them and I keep them just where they're supposed to be so that I cannot be confused, and I have all the colors placed properly in the right place so that everything will line up when I just throw this quilt top together. None of these four patch seams are going to match up or be next to any other seam, so it really doesn't matter which direction they're going. It just matters that they're laying flat. This quilt top is so fast and fun to assemble. So we're going to do the centerpiece first just to keep us grounded, because that 4 patch tells us everything about this quilt in all positioning. So if we get that right, the rest of the quilt will follow suit. So I pin those pieces together, and then I pin the 2 tall pieces together with their sashing in between. I'm just pinning them so I cannot forget when I get over to the sewing machine. So I'm just going to assemble those 3 rows. They're like giant row, little row, giant row. As I put these together, I'm just letting you watch the process. It's really quick and really simple. Now that the very simple center is done, we're going to leave the 4 patches where they are so we don't get confused. Right now, I'm pinning the side, and then I'm going to pin the other side. And again, I'm not touching those 4 patches. They have to stay where they are, or my little dyslexic brain will get a little confused. So there's the 2 sides. Now I'm going to line up the top and the bottom. First, I'm going to take that centerpiece and the centerpiece. So the bottom centerpiece and the top centerpiece, I'm going to pin them so that they're in their proper place. And once I know they're right, and I'm showing you, don't get it upside down. It's so easy to do. Double check yourself. Make sure everything is in its right position, because unpicking is no fun at all. So once I have that, then I grab those 2 sides that go in the corners. They're the cornerstones of the corners of the very quilt. And make sure they're pinned properly in place. Follow your diagram if you need to, and then you're set. That is it. Now we sew these together, and we almost have the top assembled, and then we get to do the really fun, tricky, cool thing that you've all asked me to do. Well, not all of you, but some of you. Some of you asked me to do this, and that's why I thought of it. But we need to play in the black. So let's do crumbs. You wanted to know how crumbs look on black, and here's a chance to get to see. If you've never used crumbs in this way, we have a whole video about it, and we will link it below so that you can find it. We just fill it in, and I'm putting them fairly close. You can choose to have them farther apart if you prefer, but this is how I like them, and I love it when they have odd angles, and it just looks so eclectically fun, like a stained glass window or something. And on black, it especially makes those shapes stand out. So you can trim them, you can not trim them and have them farther apart, whichever method or whatever you like. You can see that sometimes I just lay it out and make the piece fit the size shape that I need it to fit. So here is the original quilt without the crumbs, where it just has the piecing, the borders. I was able to use up some smaller pieces of novelty fabric, which was the whole point. And then I got the great idea, because of all your comments, to use black as a background and put crumbs on it. I can see this made up into a king-size quilt with more colors added. I can see it as a twin. It is just the coolest. And because I like this so much, I think we're going to make up a few more patterns using this concept. If you're interested in more patterns, go to our website and subscribe to our newsletter, and then you can be in the know. I love playing with crumbs. It's so fun to play with color this way, and to play with little pieces this way, and to feel like you're saving all of their lives. Thank you for being such a wonderful inspiration to us. Stay merry and creative.